Ooh, controversial opinion coming right up. I did it. This book killed me off. Hi guys, welcome back to a page in the chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige. I've read some books, I've had some very unintelligent thoughts about them, and I've shared them on the internet with you guys for 6 months now. So I think it is finally time, now that December is wrapping up and we are almost in 2021, to go through my best books of the year. Now I would just like to put a little disclaimer on this video that I'm really not happy with the amount of diversity present in this list. It's something that I really wanted to work on this year, and whilst I've made strides in some areas, it's been really weak in others. My favourites list is just not very diverse at all. However, I don't want to lie about what my favourites are just so that my reading appears more diverse. These are my favourite books of the year. However, next year I'll be making strides to read more diversely so that I can find more books that I love by more diverse authors. If you enjoy this video and you want to stick around and see more, do hit that big red subscribe button on the screen now and check out some of my other videos, because if you like this one you'll probably like the others, and you don't want to miss my worst books of the year that is coming soon after this video. So stay tuned for that and make sure you subscribe and don't miss it. And now I think we can get on into my best books of 2020. So these are in no particular order. I didn't particularly want to rank them. It was difficult enough choosing only 10 books, so I'm also going to rank them too. I have had a phenomenal reading year. I've read 102 books at the point of filming this. I've had so many 5 stars. Let's actually see how many 5 stars I've had. Goodreads! I have had 16 5-star reads this year, so it has been a very solid reading year. So these are the 10 best of the bunch. So in no particular order, my favourite book of the year, you already know what it is, I mention it in every single video, let's just get it out of the way, is The Midnight Library by Haig. I've just never read a book like this before. I fell so completely in love with it. It just completely like spoke to my soul, gave me this warm, cozy feeling, and I just love it. So this is about a woman who, she attempts to commit suicide, so it has a lot of trigger warnings for mental health and stuff like that, so beware before going into this book if that's something you can handle. In between life and death exists the Midnight Library, and it provides you with the opportunity to go back to different points in your life where you made key decisions and see how your life would have turned out if you had made a different decision. And it's about how these like alternate timelines and seeing whether you should actually regret decisions, and it was just so cool. It was cool in its idea of alternate timelines, of regret, and it just handled it beautifully. I really loved it. I don't want to go into it too much because I just talk about this book so much. But yes, that was my favourite book of the year. I have a coffee now because I recorded this entire video and my camera wasn't recording, so I need coffee. I need it so bad. So another book that I read this year and absolutely adored is The Assassin's Apprentice by Hobb. I must say I really did not expect much from this series. I had heard it be talked about on BookTube before, but I just thought that it would be, you know, like a middle of the road fantasy that like I'd enjoy reading but wouldn't really be anything special for me. I was so wrong. I was completely blown away by this first book. I've heard that the rest of the series really slows down, so I'm quite nervous to read those. However, first book was just exceptional. So this is a series that follows our main character Fitz at different ages. He is a bastard of the heir to the throne, and in this first book we see him as a child, and this follows Fitz trying to survive and navigate this medieval court setting, become educated, you have a little bit of a schoolish setting, and kind of just be trained so that he can still be useful to the throne rather than a threat. I cannot wait to read the rest of them. I don't want to lose momentum with this series, so top of my list for next year to get to. Now this would not be a 2020 favourites video if I didn't mention The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I know that you are probably so tired of hearing about it. However, I'm not tired of talking about it because it's just such a wonderful book. So this follows our main character Addie, and she kind of grew up in 18th century France. I think 18th century France, potentially 19th century. I can't remember if I have 18 as in it was in 18 something or if it was the 18th century. So this follows Addie, and she wants to be free. She wants to avoid the constraints placed on her as a woman by society, and so she makes a deal with the devil that she will live forever and be free free, but the catch is that no one will ever remember her and she will not be allowed to make a mark on society. And then we catch up with Addie in contemporary New York City when one day she walks into a bookstore and Henry remembers her. And my god, I loved Henry so much. I don't think I've fallen in love with a character the way I fell in love with Henry since Will Herondale in The Infernal Devices. Henry just stole my entire heart. I loved him, and I did cry very much at this book. I loved it so much. This book also just had a really interesting dynamic between the devil, Luce, and our main character, Addie. Addie just kind of spent her whole life living out of spite, but then her interactions with the devil, that there was just such a complex relationship going on there, and I had so much fun analysing that and breaking that down with my friends and people who had also read the book. V.E. Schwab is now an Instabuy author for me. Another book that I read this year that is a favourite, I actually only gave 4 stars, and I now kind of want to go back and change it to a 5-star, and that is The Secret History by Donna and Tart. This is the epitome of all epitomes of dark academia. So this follows a group of college students at a really small university in New England, I believe. They are classics students, and in their pursuit of classical knowledge, they wind up in quite a bit of trouble. And it's about them kind of handling that trouble, handling the schoolwork, trying to get away with it, and dealing with their guilt. I was so immersed in this story that it stressed me out in my personal life. I would have nightmares about being in this situation, and I would wake up and have to be like, no, it's a book. That didn't actually happen to me, that happened in the book. So I could never reread it because that was just too much stress for one individual who is already a very stressed person. But I did really love this book, and it is probably the book that will stay with me most that I have read this year. Now, to turn the attention a little bit to some non-fiction, I haven't really read much non-fiction this year. I just was kind of catching up on fantasy, especially with starting BookTube. I think my attention turned to fantasy. However, I did listen to the audiobook of Mythos by Stephen Fry. I absolutely fell in love with this. I now own Stephen Fry's other books. However, I own those in a hard copy form, and I can't say to what extent they offer the same enjoyment that the audiobooks do because I haven't read these ones yet. So Mythos is basically just Stephen Fry sitting down telling you the myths. He's not analysing them in any way, which I absolutely love. It is almost a work of fiction in that he is literally just telling you the major Greek myths surrounding every single god, both the major gods and the minor gods as well, which I really appreciated. And what I loved so much about the audiobook is Stephen Fry genuinely goes into conversations with the listener about his favourite stories and his favourite people in Greek mythology. He has a great respect for Hera, and that really comes across when he's talking about her. It really kind of felt like I was engaged in a conversation with him. And if you guys have seen Stephen Fry in any of his chat shows or QI, game shows, anything like that, you'll know that Stephen Fry has his own kind of humour and comedic effect, and that really comes across in the book as well. And that's why I think the audiobook was a fantastic way of consuming this literature, because it just worked really, really well for the type of book and just Stephen Fry in general. I really hope that that is able to come across in the written version as well. So the next book I'm going to talk about kind of confused me that I put it on this list, because I believe I only ranked it a 3-star, but it's just really stayed with me and I really, really enjoyed it. So this is Black Witch Magic by Mila. I read this as an arc through NetGalley, and this is probably one of the best NetGalley arcs that I've ever read. This follows our main character, and she is a witch, and she's kind of cursed so that she can never leave her small town. Her home small town has kind of ostracized her because they've thought that her grandma was a witch, etc, etc, all that fun stuff. Our second perspective, our male character, is a skeptic that is a host of a paranormal TV show, and he and his best friend drive around and investigate paranormal goings on. And this brings them into our main character's life because they start investigating the witchcraft of her grandmother. I just thought the relationship between our female main character, whose name I really can't remember, I'm sorry, and our male main character worked really, really well. There were moments in this story that I actually laughed out loud, and I just love that they were included. I've never read anything like that in another contemporary romance. I mean, I believe I gave it a 3-star because I really had some issues. I think outside of the main protagonist, the best friend characters were really not very good friends and didn't react to things the way best friends should. But looking back, I really don't think that decreased my enjoyment at all, and it's going in my favourites because it's just really stayed with me. Given this is my channel, I am also kind of required to talk about My Dark Vanessa. This is so unlike anything that I've ever read. It's not my type of thing at all, and I feel a bit weird saying how much I enjoyed this book given the content of the book, but I really did just think this was such an important read. So this follows our main character, and when she was at school she had a relationship with her teacher, and now the teacher's kind of involved in a court case because obviously that's highly illegal, and it's about her trying to come to terms with whether she was taken advantage of or whether it was this real romance that she believed it to be when she was a teenager. And it's a very, very dark book, but it has really stayed with me, and I just remember that I couldn't put it down. I read it all in one sitting. I just don't have anything more to say other than that it was a favourite. Ooh, controversial opinion coming right up, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I said it, I did it. I'm sorry, but you were wrong if you don't love this book. So this is kind of the villain origin story to The Hunger Games, and we follow President Snow as he is like straight out of uni, trying to start his career, and it's when the Hunger Games have just started in Panem and no one's really interested in them. Snow, when we meet him as a teenager, is very much an idealist and is also very much against the capital, and it just follows his interactions with the Hunger Games and with politics, and how he just kind of winds up in certain situations that kind of lead to him being angry at District 12 in particular and wanting to continue the Hunger Games and believing that the district should be punished. This book gets a lot of criticism for the fact that Snow doesn't get a redemption arc, for the fact that it's a very boring Hunger Games, for the fact that the pacing is an issue, and to that I say, not supposed to be a redemption arc, not supposed to be entertaining because we as the reader reflect the capital, and the capital at that time found the Hunger Games boring. Yes, pacing is an issue, I will give it that, but I really enjoyed it still. That is a controversial opinion, I know. I think the highest rating other than mine I have seen given to this book is a 3-star. I'm not going to change my review. I've heard other people's thoughts, and to be honest, I really strongly disagree with them. So this is one of my best books of the year. To loop back to books that made me sob like a frickin' baby, we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really can't believe that I only read this year. My god, did I love it so much. This book was just so amazingly written and so not what I expected it to be. I'm so thankful that everyone on BookTube just collectively agreed to not give away too much about this book, so I won't either. I'll hop on the bandwagon, but you need to read this book. I sobbed like a baby. Evelyn Hugo is such a complex, difficult character, and you love her for that. It's just so fantastic. This book killed me off. And so book number 10, my next favourite book of the year, was The Poppy War, which should not surprise anyone at all. I haven't read a war fantasy in a really long time, and I really loved that this traces Chinese history. So I know absolutely everyone on the internet is talking about the Poppy War. I believe the final book in the trilogy just came out. I am very far behind. The first half of the book is very much like a fantasy school setting, and then you just get thrown into this war, and my brain was blown. I couldn't believe that the setting had changed so much in the turn of a page. And yes, this is very much based on Chinese history. I think the thread of the Opium Wars is very much intrinsic to this book, and I just loved it. It just made me want to learn absolutely everything that I could about Chinese history and do a load of research, and I love books that make me want to do that. I do 100% want to finish this series, but I'm scared because I know that it will break me and hurt me and stress me out, because that's what war fantasies do, and I don't think I've ever read a fantasy series that is quite so centered around war as this one. Normally you get to the war in the second or the third book, not the first one, so I'm scared. But I really do want to finish it. And there we have it. Those are my 10 best books of 2020. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you do and you want to stay tuned for my worst books of 2020 video, then do hit that big red subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content. I would really appreciate it if you would stick around. Do let me know what some of your favourite books of 2020 were, if you agree with any of these opinions or not. Let me know down in the comments, or reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram, which are down in the description bar. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you on Friday for my next video. Bye guys.